Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're discussing the Zenith Elite Reserve de Marche. You can see this automatic power reserve Zenith Elite on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full listing for this watch, with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images, and of course complete pricing details for this power reserve Zenith Elite. Now on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, the watch has perfect dimensions. It's an ideal modern dress watch at 40 millimeters across the round of the case, not inclusive of the crown. It's also remarkably slim, only 9.5 millimeters thick, or I should say millimeters thin. It wears even flatter than that because of the limpet-like wrap of the lugs around the wrist, but also the generous slope of the sapphire and the conical bezel, allowing a sleeve to ramp up and over this watch as though it were not there. Now from lug to lug, 48 millimeters means it has good span. It's not too small, it's not short cropped. And the nice thing about that span is that it does have that sort of virtual camber afforded by the curve of the lugs on both sides. This watch has a full figure, but it wraps itself around the wrist, losing none of its formal elegance. I will even say that the watch could be the answer to that often asked question: if you were to have just one watch, what would it be? Short of hardcore aquatic activities and impact sports, this is the watch that could do it all by virtue of its potent steel case black dial combination, and again the versatile inclusion of a very flat, thin, monotone stitch, rectangular scale black alligator leather strap, an easily adjustable Zenith pin buckle, and thoughtful rubberized underside coating that isolate the leather from the heat, sweat, grit, and oils of the wrist to extend its service life. Smart and very comfortable against the skin. Now the case itself is remarkably nuanced, and here's what I mean. You'll note that the hoods of the lugs are satin finished, only the hoods. Then you follow the bevels of the lug flanks down to the case flank, and you see it's all of high polish, and that too on the bezel itself. Now the bezel is both angled and conical, but also slightly cambered, so it's simultaneously a little bit of a domed bezel and a little bit of a conical bezel. It has the qualities of each. You'll note that the crown is very small and discreet, so it doesn't dominate the look of the watch from the front. It almost shrinks away and vanishes, but at the same time, a small kerf is installed on the underside, so despite the small profile of the crown, you have absolutely no difficulty. You can see that little well, getting your fingernail underneath it to pull it at a moment's notice. It's simply that easy, such is the logic of the case design. Now, the watch's dial, like the rest of the timepiece, is rife with nuance, and here's what I mean. Start with the outermost portion. You can see that railroad-style minutes track, and inset next to each luminescent and polished index is a small Roman numeral. You'll see that the railroad is mirrored in the sub-seconds at 9 o'clock, and both sub-seconds and the Reserve de Marche scale have been fitted with a narrower and more delicate alpha-style hand, which is pinched at its waist where it joins the pinion, rather than the more massive Dauphine-style hands at center. Now you'll also note that there is beautiful detail in the step of the date window at 6 o'clock, such that there's a more gradual transition down from the plane of the dial to the plane of the date disc. And finally, even within the Reserve de Marche scale, tracing the 50-hour autonomy of the movement, I don't know if you can quite see it, but the index at the terminus of the power reserve is a subtle red hash, the only color on the dial. And naturally, we have that applied Zenith guiding star logo. Again, very thin in profile. This is pretty close to the perfect watch. 50-meter water resistance, so you're not going to want to take this into the water for, again, hardcore aquatic activity, but Zenith, it should be noted, does approve 5 ATM for surface water exposure, so it could survive a swim on a textile strap. Now you'll note that the caliber is Zenith caliber 685. You have the power reserve scale, and happily with a 50-hour power reserve, it has both solidly more than the industry standard of 42 for an automatic movement, but at the same time, the power reserve is small enough that you get a very gratifying interaction between winding the crown and the advance of the power reserve scale such that it advances rapidly. It's easy to see. Show it off to your friends if you like, or enjoy it in private, but there's a nice relationship between the turn of the crown and the broad sweep of the Reserve de Marche indicator. Now, of course, an in-house caliber, as are all Zenith Elite and El Primero calibers. Beautifully made. It features a linear Côte de Genève across the rotor, partially skeletonized so you can see the works unobstructed, and a circular Côte de Genève across the bridges. There's an even and tight perlage across the base plate itself, and the watch does feature a number of mechanical refinements in addition to a modern 4 Hz beat rate and the 50-hour power reserve. Now, one of those refinements is a date that features a quick set that's bidirectional, and this is uncommon. This makes it easier to adjust the watch to correct it should it, for instance, run down, and should it be more direct to set the date backwards to get to the true date, you can do that easily. And of course, it features hacking seconds or stop seconds. Pull the crown to extremity, stop the balance, now you can set precisely against a reference time. Why is that interesting to note? It's seemingly standard in the industry. Well, it's interesting because it's a feature that Zenith's more heralded El Primero caliber does not have. The Elite does offer advantages, and again, in this potent combination of white metal, black dial, useful power reserve, in-house movement, and perfect size, you have a watch that really can do it all, and it can be yours on our website.